Hi Joe, day 14, Pods with Posh and Pool. And today we are talking about a topic very close to both of our hearts, single parenting.
Yes, we certainly are. Because, well, we thought we'd bring up single parenting because Jacinda did mention single parents, in particular in one of her speeches the other day, didn't she? But also, as you say, very close to our heart. Both of us are single parents. And I've actually been thinking about this overnight. Even when my children were extremely, extremely young, we lived just north of London. And I actually was a single parent then as well. You know, that's when I had 3 children under 4. I counted myself as a single parent then because my husband would get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and he wouldn't return home till 8 p.m. Well, the children were all up and then in bed within that time frame. So you did everything yourself anyway then. So I feel like I've been a single parent for a long time, really.
Yeah, and I think this podcast is not only isolated to parents that are divorced or separated or widowed. There's many different circumstances people can find themselves in as a single parent. And I totally agree. I lived in London. My husband worked long hours in the city. He would leave at 7 in the morning, sometimes come back at 1 in the morning, wouldn't see me or the children. And he travelled for 3-4 months at a time. So I also classified myself as a single parent. And in many ways, actually, I say this very quietly, it was a bit easier to be a single parent. So it's not always easy being married, is what we're saying on here. So this podcast is not just for single parents. Although saying that, when eventually my husband did leave, he left me, let's work it out, Martha's coming up to 16, so I was pregnant with her, so 17 years ago. So 17 years of single parenting. So I think I can put my hand on my heart and say I'm qualified to speak on the subject, as are you. How long have you been single parenting, Joe? I mean, single parenting.
Properly for 7.5 years. So yeah, quite a while as well.
So how many children have we single parented between us?
8.
8? It's quite a lot of children.
It is quite a lot of children. And, you know, our heart does go out to single parents. And this is not even just about lockdown, is it? It's a tough job. And it's tough enough being a parent anyway. But then when you don't have anybody to turn to for a little bit of moral support within the household, it's really difficult, isn't it? How did you cope throughout your years of being a single parent? What were your coping mechanisms?
When I was a single parent, you know, I had a newborn baby and 3 other children under the age of 4. So I had basically 4 under 4. And so the young years were really tough just because it was physically demanding to wash the babies, to bath the babies, to feed the babies, to put them to bed, to dress them, to entertain them. That was really physically demanding. And I think that was really hard. And I've said on another podcast that somebody approached me once and said, if you think that's hard, you wait till they get the teen years. And actually, you know, I thought I would never survive it if it got any harder than that. It was so tough. And you're doing all that without sleep. So to single parents listening to this, who've got young children, you are doing it without sleep. And there's bad days. And you just have to say to yourself, I'm doing this without sleep. I'm doing the best I can. And I remember once actually, Joe, sitting on the sofa saying, and they were just all around me. They were just so gorgeous, you know, probably one on the breast and they were crawling. And I remember looking at them thinking they're absolutely gorgeous and thinking I couldn't enjoy them as much as I wanted to. But I remember saying to myself, when you look back and you're in the future, just say that day you sat on the sofa, you were so exhausted. You were so tired. You couldn't get on the floor and play with them. You were just beyond it in exhaustion. And I think, you know, that was the hard bit. But the other, as you talk about loneliness, I think loneliness was my struggle, actually. Not having companionship, not having intimacy, not having somebody to share the load. It's really tough.
Yeah. But then equally, you know, there is people out there in relationships and they don't parent together, and that can be just as hard, or if not harder at times, because when the book starts and stops with you, it's, as we talk about all the time, it's that word of acceptance. You don't actually have another choice. So when the book starts and stops with you, you do everything. You put the trash out, you do the laundry, you feed them, you bathe them, you love them, you care for them. You occasionally lose your shit, you know, and occasionally you want to lock yourself in a dark room and cry. But all of that goes as part and parcel of it. But when you've actually got a partner, sometimes you have that expectation that they're going to do some of that stuff. And then when that may not happen, or may not happen the way you want it to happen, then that causes a whole heap more anxiety and grief and annoyance and stress. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's better to be a single parent. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm just saying, you know, people in relationships have struggles as well. Absolutely.
And also the upside of struggling in single parenting is also the beauty of the journey you go on your own to discover yourself, and you're big on self-love. And so that journey that I went on to discover me, I didn't have somebody else to say to me, I love you, you're beautiful. I actually had to find that for myself. So I don't feel needy of that now, and I just feel grateful for who I am and the place I'm in, which is actually, it's peace. It's not that, you know, every day is amazing, but I feel so peaceful about life. And I've had to find that on my own rather than be dependent on somebody else to give it to me. So when it's the absence of it in the relationship, then you want it. Whereas actually, you and I walked that journey where we found it for ourselves. And I wouldn't have done that. I know, I speak for myself. I couldn't have done that in a relationship. It's been a journey. It's something I've had to find by being on my own. So the upside of single parenting is if you do the hard stuff and you work on yourself, you come to a place of just such inner peace and inner love. And that's when you walk in just such abundance of joy, isn't it? There's also the measured quantities of joy that equal the measured quantities of the pain that you've been through.
Absolutely. As we say, there's the good and the bad, you know, and the ugly and all the everything in between. It's the having that polarity, isn't it? I think for me, especially when the children were young, and okay, I wasn't a single parent necessarily, but I didn't have any help at home because husband was away, and like yours, went traveling or was working 12, 14 hours a day. The biggest thing for me that got me through the day was structure and routine. You know, we got up every morning at a very similar time. I mean, children wake up when they wake up, don't they? So you haven't got a choice sometimes whether it's 4 a.m. or 6. But we'd get up, we'd all eat breakfast, you know, we'd be dressed within the hour. We didn't hang around in our pajamas. It's just not what we did. And especially because I had active children, you know, they needed to be outdoors, out and about. So we'd be up, breakfast, washed face, brushed teeth, dressed, out the house, go and do something, you know, whether it's kick a ball or go to preschool or whatever it was at that time. Leave the house at a certain point. Lunch was usually about the same time. Dinner would be the same time. Bath time would be the same time. And bedtime was the same time. And that's what got me through the day. You know, you just take very small chunks at a time. Because if you actually think of the entire day, sometimes when you're being woken up at 5 a.m, that seems like a very, very long road. Whereas if you just take it in these bite-sized chunks, I can make it through till 10 a.m. till morning tea, I can make it through till 12, till lunchtime, I can put them down for their sleep. Or that's what helped me get through the day, certainly up until all of them started going to school.
And you're really good at structure, aren't you? And I think that's actually really good advice to listeners on who have got young children, because I think if you build something early in your day, and I used to go where we lived in London, there were lots of church play groups where you could go and get a coffee and the children would just go and play. And it was such a, I almost had one to go to every single day so I could meet friends, have a coffee. But if you build up that schedule into your day so that you've got something quite early, that actually also gives you the excuse that you've got to get out of bed, you've got to have a shower, you've got to put some makeup on and do your hair, and therefore you feel good about yourself because you're not just lounging around the house in your dressing gown and slippers. You actually feel a bit more organised in your day, and therefore the day can proceed. So I think structure is really, really important. I think that's fantastic. Let's look at some of the stats, Jo, because the stats are quite staggering. So I've written some stats down here and I've lost them all. Hang on a minute. I'm going to come back to my stats. 40 to 50% of marriages end up in divorce. So that's a lot of children. 12 million children are growing up in single parent homes, which is quite interesting. 22 million children. So it's 12 million single parents. 22 million children are living with single parents. And that's 3 million living with dads and 19 million living with mums. It's quite a lot, isn't it? 25% of children are from single parents. The USA has most, with 34% single parents, Canada 22%, Australia 20%. So there are a lot of children growing up in single parent households for whatever reason. As earlier I said, it could be deceased parent, it could be parents who were never married, or it could be divorce. So that's a lot of children and a lot of single parenting going on.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I remember when we were growing up, you know, what am I now, I'm in my early 40s, you know, there didn't seem to be that many people from single parents, but as the years went on, it got more and more and more, didn't it? You know, you just knew more people from single parents. So there's no stigma attached anymore either. You know, at one point there was a little bit of a stigma. That's how I felt anyway. That's how it felt from, that's the impression I got, whereas there's no stigma attached anymore. We're all just doing the very best we can in the situation that we're in. And I think that's the thing that you've got to tell yourself as a parent, full stop. we do the best we can with the tools we've got. And, you know, sometimes you get it so wrong. And sometimes you feel like you've just nailed that situation. You go, yeah, I'm going to take that win. But what I'd say as well, when you actually get it right, sit with that feeling, because we're all too good at bullying ourselves and punishing ourselves when we get it wrong. We feel that guilt, we feel that shame. If we lose it because the kitchen isn't tidy, for instance, or whatever the case may be, and we yell when we know that really yelling doesn't help. It doesn't help any situation, it doesn't help anyone, but sometimes you just get to that point where it just explodes out of us. And so we're all too good at being hard on ourselves when that happens. However, there's a flip side of that. You know, when we actually do something right, and you have those moments where maybe all your kids are coming together and they're sitting around the table and they're having a conversation, or if they're little, that they're all actually having a nice play together and they say, thank you, mummy, or thank you, daddy, for dinner, or they run up to you and give you that really big hug when you weren't expecting it. Whatever it is, sit with that feeling and allow yourself to go, I'm doing a really good job. Because it doesn't come with a rule book. There are no rules, there's no regulations. We get thrown into this parenting thing and we think we've got an idea that because we want to love our child, we know we love our child. So we think we're going to nail it. And every single day, there's a new problem, there's a new issue, there's a new learning curve. So be kind to yourself.
And I think with what you're saying there is that could actually relate to a lot of parenting, because we do get it wrong as parents, both mums and dads, male, female, whoever we are, whatever our relationship is with our children, we all get it wrong. But it's harder, isn't it? Because you don't get the break when you're a single parent. You don't get somebody else picking up on the signs of stress to say, I'm just going to pour you a gin and tonic, or why don't you go for a run and I'll just take over. You don't have that. So the sense of guilt and shame that you can carry is greater. And I've got a few words here that I'm going to read out because it's so encouraging. It says, dear single parent, give yourself a chance to breathe. Those children sleeping in their beds that you worry about, know that they are loved, that you love them like no one else can so much. And they know that. And in the end, love is always big enough. And that's what you need to know at the end of the day. There's good days, there's bad days. There's days we shout at our children. There's days we're too tired and can't cope. There's days that we feel guilty about the way we responded to them, think we didn't handle the situation very well. Actually, your children know that they're loved, and love is big enough. Love is so powerful.
I think as well, another thing, we underestimate our children, and I think honesty is a good thing with children. I don't think you need to tell them the ins and outs of everything. That's not what I'm saying at all. They do not need to be your confidant. That's not their role. However, if you're feeling really tired, it's okay to say to your child, Mummy's having a really tired day today. I might be a little bit short-tempered today because I am so exhausted. I just need some quiet time today. And if they are aware of how you're feeling, then it's all about communication, isn't it? We underestimate that we think that they may not understand that. However, if they know what kind of feeling you're feeling, it reassures them. I think I'm always honest with my children. I know I'm having a really tired day, or I've actually got loads to achieve today. I've got loads of work on, so I might just not be able to talk to you for a few hours. I've just got so much to do. But if you want to come and talk to me, you might just have to wait a moment. It's about the communication.
And I think there's two critical things you said in there, Jo. One is that through communication, healthy communication, you're telling them you're having a bad day, but also you're showing them that you're prepared to overcome that. They watch you've got a bad day, and now tomorrow you've got a good day. So mummy actually worked through the bad day, or daddy worked through the bad day. So I can do the same thing. When things get bad, there is a way through it. So you're role modeling resilience and working through. That's really healthy. The other thing you said, which I emphasize all the time to parents through my company, Teenage Toolbox, when I work with children, is that you are not best friending your children. You're not dumping on them the responsibility that sits on your shoulders, the burdens of life. And many children nowadays are engaged and drowning in too much information about their parents' lives, of their mother's boyfriend, or the worries of the day, or the financial problems, or the court cases. Children do not need to know that. And many children in the teen years go into hyper-vigilant, hyper-anxiety states because under the age of 10, they were fed too much information. They were fed all the fears from the mum or the dad. And a lot nowadays, also the fears of the court cases, they don't need to know the ins and outs. They just need to know, as you say, you're tired having a bad day. They don't need to know that you've been to court that day to fight the dad or whatever it is. Protect them from that stuff, because you do want to have your best friend. You do want intimacy at home, but don't do it with your children. Find a best friend, find a mom, or find somebody outside the family you can do that stuff with. Your dumping needs to go to a therapist or to somebody that's prepared to walk with you that journey, but certainly not your children, because you will see 5 years later, 10 years later, hyper-anxiety, hypervigilance, sensitivity, and also low self-esteem because of that. So protect your children, but do role model them. As Joe said, mum's had a bad day. She's going to be okay, but I just need some time out. I can't play the puzzle with you. I can't help you with your homework. Just give me some space. That's healthy. So there's a difference, isn't there? What's healthy, what's not healthy.
And sometimes when you actually have those conversations with the kid, like, kids, I've had a bad day. I actually just need to go and take a shower. If you just give me 20 minutes to revive myself, then let's sit down then and let's all make dinner together then. And then you are actually, when you come out, you actually feel like a different person as well, because they have given you that space. You've been a bit honest with them. They've given you a little bit of space. You go off and do it and you come back and actually you are a different person. You can help them with the homework. That's very much what happens if you actually just let it out. Whereas if you hold it all in and you're all full of tension and, you kind of, I can't get 2 minutes to myself, blah, blah, blah. And of course, it's very different with different age children, And I think that's why when they are so young, this sticking to a routine really helped me, because I knew once they were in bed, then if I was absolutely exhausted, I also could fall into bed at 7 p.m. Or if there was something that needed doing in the house, I didn't have to stress about it during the day. I could leave it till 7 p.m.
And I think we probably underestimate the influence we have in our children's lives when we are role modeling. And if you're having a bad day and you're role modeling to say, I just need some time out to go for a run, obviously not abandoning your children on their own in the home if they're young, and then you can talk to them, when mummy gets stressed, when dad gets stressed, if I go and do some exercise, all the stress comes out of my body and I don't need to then get upset or angry or be in tears. And then you can talk to your children about healthy ways of dealing with anger and your emotions, because there's nothing wrong with anger. Anger is a healthy emotion to feel, but it's what you do with the anger that's right or wrong. So you can role model to your children. You can talk about, do you think it's healthy to turn to alcohol or overeat or de-stress in ways? There's different ways of de-stressing. I could chat to a friend on the phone, and that's why, as a parent today, I chatted for an hour on the phone because I could just feel the support from a friend on the end of the line. But role model, because this is how your children, when they're adults, will survive in life. Role model resilience, role model teaching them tools and skills to overcome, and talk about what you're going through, because you are teaching emotional intelligence to your children. And if you have this so-called happy family where mummy and daddy are absolutely perfect and everything's fine, when they leave home as adults, they don't have those skills. So be honest with your children. But again, how much information do they receive?
It's like I've always cried in front of my children. I know there's parents out there, and I know friends who won't show any emotion in front of their children. Well, I now have beautiful, beautiful, empathetic children who will come up. They will be the first ones to come and hug me if I'm upset, or even if they can just see I'm upset. Now, do I tell them why I'm upset? Occasionally I do, if it's appropriate. If somebody's upset me or something has happened, occasionally I will tell them why, because it's not their problem, not dumping on them. I'm just showing them, as you say, why I'm upset and how I'm getting through it. But I don't want to hide all my emotions either. And so I've always cried. But there's plus sides to that, as I say, isn't there? Your children are now, they're all happy to hug me, the boys and my daughter. It's just lovely to see. And they hug other people. They're the first children when they see somebody upset or even somebody saying bullied at school. They're the kids that'll go and help them. And I like that. I love that about them.
And our children can't give away what they've never received themselves. If they've not learned or received empathy, they can't give that away to other people. And your children are absolutely gorgeous. You have got 4 delightful teens. They're absolutely beautiful. I would hug your children all the time. So there's lots of different areas of stresses for parents, aren't there? Should we go through some of them?
Yes, go.
You know I'm a list person, don't you? Shall I tell you how many I've got?
Oh, God, I'm just dreading it. How many?
My lists are normally sort of 10 to 15, aren't there? Got 10, but I'll just mention a few.
Go on then.
Financial worry. That's a big one.
It's a fact, but financial worry is a big worry for a lot of people as well, isn't it? But, it is, it's really hard when you're on your own because you don't have that extra backup. There's nobody to turn to and say, look, I can't afford the electricity bill today. It's tough. So, but you know what? I remember going into a scooter shop one year for Christmas to buy one of my boys a scooter. And it was while I was a single parent. And the guy in there said to me, he said, you know what? He said, it's mainly single parents that come in and buy these. He says, and you know what? They start buying them at the start of the year and they put small amounts of money aside just so their children can get what they want. Single parents, and I'm sure it's all parents to be fair, but we have this tenacity, this deep-rooted determination to make it. And it makes us stronger.
Well, how about this then? Being a single parent is not a life full of struggles, but a journey for the strong.
Absolutely.
Hard though when you're a single parent and you've got to work as well, because if you're a couple and one takes the financial responsibility, you share the financial responsibility and share the workload of children. It's very tough on single parents who've got to work as well. The stress is huge, pressure's awful. And I think we're also in lockdown right now, aren't we? And we have to remember that a lot of our essential workers, that are nurses, the supermarket checkout staff, they are single parents too. And so now more than ever, if you're listening and you think, gosh, I know some single parents, just be aware they need extra support if they are an essential worker. And if you're an essential worker, you're a single parent, wow, what an incredible job you're doing. Please remember to ask for help. You are in communities, even if it's just on social media, put help request out there. There are people that would love to help you do your shopping or help with the children, whatever it is that you need. Or if you're feeling desperate right now and you're a single parent listening to this thinking it's all very well to know there's help out there, but I'm actually feeling overwhelmed with desperation, also go online and find a helpline, because there's so much support out there. It could just be you just connect with somebody just to chat for 10 minutes because your mum's not around or you haven't got a friend. Just go online right now, seek support. Don't be in a situation where you are crying out, absolutely desperate, because Joe and I both know there's times. I published a book about my desperate times, but it is absolutely awful. And if you're feeling to the point that you can't carry on, just go online and find that support.
What after financial woes?
That was only number one.
It's going to be a long list. Anyway, carry on.
I won't do them all. Grief and loss. I think the emotions that single parents go through, because no single parent gets married to end up in divorce. So I think there's a sort of, well, divorced parents kind of chosen it for themselves. Nobody gets married then thinking they're going to get divorced. So it's not something you choose. So there's huge grief and there's huge loss for the loss of the expectations of what you got married for, the relationship, or having the grandchildren together. And actually there's a higher instance of grief with the empty nest syndrome, because you haven't got a relationship to work with at the end of that. The children left home, you've invested everything in those children. So grief and loss is absolutely huge. Emotions, guilt and fear is another one. Fear is huge. How am I going to survive? How am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to pay the rent? I've lost my home. How am I going to work? How am I going to get childcare? So that's huge, isn't it?
Yep. I'm trying to be quiet just at the minute. Say the next one on the list.
You look at me and say, let's just do number 3. Shall I just do number 3?
Go on, say number 3.
Well, I'm kind of putting it out there so you'll expand, because I know you love talking. So I thought if I just say the list, you can do the talking. But clearly you just want me to run through the list really quickly. No,
but you really nailed that grief and loss one. So I'm totally with you. I'm in support over here.
Hammer and nails. Okay. How about social rejection and instability?
So
did you find that?
Not really. But when I first became a single parent, it was just different, because obviously I'd separated. So when that happens, you generally lose friends anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think my children were so young that, mine were babies. In a newborn baby, I was pregnant, and I was 6 weeks pregnant as a single mum. So I think then in those days, everyone was still happily married. So I felt real social isolation and rejection, and nobody wanted to know me really. Probably me. It was probably nothing to do with being a single parent. Children. The burden on the children is much greater. They have to help out around the home. They maybe have to become a parent to the younger sibling, because they're the older siblings. They have to grow up much faster. So just be aware the stresses on them are much greater. And also they absorb the parental conflict between the two. They want to be the peacemaker. They don't want daddy to say bad things about mummy and vice versa. So that's huge. Stigma and shame, you said that earlier, but you said that's not really the same.
I think it has eased a lot, because there is, like, as you've just read all the statistics out about single parents, there just can't be as much stigma anymore. You know, I still think people might look at teenagers that are walking around the baby and there's the odd stigma there. But there's always going to be people who judge, you know, and we're just so non-judgmental. We just kind of take people as they are, and we all know that any of us could have been a single parent, and I nearly was. So, you know, but I think the whole single parenting stigma has eased a lot.
Can I just say, I don't think I'm non-judgmental. I'm looking at you now thinking, what's that picture on the wall? Is that a mushroom or is it a shell? I'm kind of looking around you, forming an opinion about you according to what's in your room. So I'm coming to see a lamp and your curtains and your picture. Like your picture. I do like your picture.
I thought it was like lemon segments or grapefruit.
Oh, or oranges.
Yeah, so I'd had no mushroom attachment to that whatsoever.
What about those things on beaches? What are those round things on beaches that are... No, but they're sort of... Anyway,
what's the next one, Sue?
Loneliness, lack of companionship. I really struggled with this one, not being able to have adult conversations. It's lovely being with your kids, it's lovely having fun, but at the end of the day, I craved adult conversation.
Well, you see, I've never really gone through that because I got married for a second time, so whatever. And then I do have some really amazing friends now. So, but sometimes actually I choose to sit in loneliness. So I do have lonely moments still, but I choose to sit in loneliness because I find in loneliness I learn a lot about myself, because I can't just fill my head with noise anymore or go and seek people out. Whereas I suppose when your children are young, you need more of that social contact because it is so physically demanding, it is so tiring, and sometimes you just need to offload to somebody. So I'd say definitely in the younger years, try and find a good support network. That will really help.
I just have to say, I mean, I know your children are a bit different from mine, but in the teenage years, I kind of feel it as well, because you've got all these hormones going around and you've got this sort of irrational responses to things. And I just think, I'm just craving an adult that might just respond in a calmer, more sophisticated way. Well, actually, they're not even 4 teenagers. I've got, what have I got? A 21-year-old, 19, 17, and 15. But sometimes in the evening at the dinner table, I think, give me a girlfriend to chat to.
I'll be there as soon as lockdown's finished, so we can.
Thank goodness for Skype and Facebook Messenger and all that in lockdown.
Okay, quickly go through the rest of the list.
Oh, you want me to quick? Okay, does that mean hurry up? Okay, work discrimination.
Yep.
No time. Having no time. And overwhelm, depression.
Hard.
That's it. That's 10. Done. I rushed through them, so we don't need to talk about them because clearly you want to go on to other things. You've got a poem. Let's hear the poem. It's better than lists. A bit more creative than the list.
It's called Don't Quit, and it's very beautiful. It says, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down quite a bit, rest if you must, but don't quit. For life is queer with its twists and turns, as every one of us sometimes learns. And many a failure runs about when he might have won if he'd stuck it out. Don't give up though the pace seems slow. You may succeed with another blow. Often the goal is nearer than it seems to be a faint and faltering man. Often the struggler has given up when he might have captured the victor's cup. And he learned too late when the night came down how close he was to the golden crown. Success is just failure turned inside out, the silver tint of the clouds of doubt. And you never can tell how close you are. It may be near when it seems so far. So stick to the fight when you're hardest hit. It's when things seem worst that you must not quit.
Lovely.
It's so beautiful.
It's so true though, isn't it? Because when things get so tough, you really want to quit because you can't imagine it ever gets easier. But when things get really, really, really tough, invariably something beautiful comes along, like you get an email or somebody drops off a cake, or that's when beautiful things do happen. So if you're in a place that's really tough right now and you're listening to this and you can't see hope, just look out for the beautiful things. Be in gratitude. I spoke to a girlfriend in England yesterday who's in a pretty bad way. And then this morning she sent me a photograph of the flowers in her garden, and I thought, wow, how strong is that? Still notice the flowers in the garden. And they were beautiful. They're very English, sort of delicate little flowers in and amongst the struggle that she's really facing right now. And that is all recognition of the courage and the strength that she has to push through. So be in gratitude right now if it's tough. Find something tiny to be thankful for.
You know what? And like, I still remember days now when my children were super young and I had postnatal depression, or life just seemed way too hard because all of them had totally different demands. It was overwhelming. And then one of them would come along with their chubby little hands and arms and put them around you and just want a big hug, or they'd fall over and they'd be hurt and you'd scoop them up and all they wanted was you. And oh, that moment just makes everything else ebb away. You know, that's what I say, just enjoy those moments. And now, of course, they're much bigger than me. They're all up here. But, you know, even if I walk through and they let me hug them, I go,
I know, it's gorgeous. And now they're bigger. It's the joy is just so different, isn't it? Because my almost 22-year-old, who's 6'3", he's towering and very handsome. And he's trying to join the Navy in England. And you can't have a beard in the Navy, but obviously on lockdown, it's this chance. So he's got this gorgeous beard that's grown. He looks desperately handsome. And he came up last night and he quite likes his own time. So he's got a tent in the garage. That is his den because there's too many people in the house. He's put a tent up in the garage. He's got his bed in the tent, a proper bed in the tent. He came up last night and he's sort of loitering over me at my desk as I was working. And when he loiters, he clearly wants attention, like he's the little 4-year-old. So he had lots of attention. And then I just said to him, so you're going to make me a cup of tea? And he went downstairs, made me a cup of tea, and he stood there still loitering. And it's just so gorgeous. You know, they're exactly the same, aren't they? And I just thought, what pleasure to look at this desperately handsome, happy, nearly 22-year-old guy, and they're just as gorgeous as ever. So the pleasures are still there. And there's a lovely quote here. It says, being a single parent is twice the work, twice the stress, twice the tears, but also twice the hugs, twice the love, and twice the pride. And I have to say, I was very proud of him last night. He looks absolutely gorgeous.
Well, also we can say to all of you single parents, or even just parents out there, you're doing an amazing job. You are doing things in the situation you're in, and you're doing an awesome job. Be kind to yourself, be compassionate, and know that if you mess it all up, just do it different next time. We all mess it up from time to time, sometimes more often than not, to be fair. And that's okay, because we're all learning. We haven't, as I say, there's no rule book. So just be kind to yourself and show your kids you love them, because I'm sure as heck they absolutely love and adore you.
And you are doing the hardest job in the world. You're the cook, you're the cleaner, you're the childcare officer, you are the house maintenance person, you're the chauffeur, you're the social life, media, marketing strategist. You are absolutely everything. And you don't get paid. So you're probably doing 10, 12 full-time jobs in the home without being paid, without being promoted, without being recognized at all. And that is the toughest thing to do in the world. So we are right behind you. We believe in you. And as Jo says, well done. Be gentle on yourself. And if you also feel you need a bit more self-love right now, listen to Jo's talk on Sunday. She did a great talk on finding self-love, just making time for you. And that is on our Facebook page, Pods with Posh and Pool, on Sunday night. Just Jo on her own, giving a chit-chat about finding self-love and making time for you. So listen to that. If you're a single parent right now, go and run yourself a nice hot bath, put some candles on, eat some chocolate. That's my go-to place, which I ran out of yesterday. And we're with you.
We are. And until tomorrow, when we'll be back talking about something else, who knows. Take care, love, light and peace.